I spent $20,000 on a dream vacation to Hawaii, hoping to create memories with my son and his family. At the moment we reached the airport, he looked me in the eye and said, "I forgot to buy you a ticket. Go home." That's when I realized they had never planned for me to be part of this trip. 3 weeks later, when they returned from their perfect vacation, I was waiting this time with someone who was about to turn their world upside down. Before we dive in, don't forget to subscribe to the channel and tell me in the comments what country you're watching from. I never imagined that a trip meant to bring my family together would end up shattering everything I thought I knew about them. I had spent months planning it, carefully arranging every detail, determined to give my son and his family the vacation of a lifetime. Hawaii had always been Martha's dream, but she passed before we could ever go together. So I decided to honor her by taking the people she loved most, our son Eric, his wife Julia, and their 2 children, Michael and Sarah. It wasn't cheap, not by a long shot. $20,000 of my retirement savings went into the flights, the resort, the excursions. But I told myself it would be worth it to see their smiles, to watch my grandchildren play in the ocean, to feel Martha's presence in every sunset over the waves. Should have known that sometimes the people you think you do best can still surprise you in the most painful ways. The day of the trip started with excitement buzzing through the house. My suitcase was packed neatly by the door, filled with clothes Martha had once bought me for special occasions. I smiled at the memory as I zipped it shut. My phone buzzed constantly with messages from Eric, including reminders about our meeting at the airport, boarding times, and the weather in Honolulu. He sounded eager, almost impatient. I hurried through breakfast, heart racing with anticipation. At 72, these kinds of adventures didn't come often anymore. I wanted everything to go perfectly. When I pulled up to the airport parking lot, I spotted them right away. Eric stood tall in his crisp polo shirt, scrolling through his phone with the usual distracted air of someone juggling a dozen things at once. Julia looked effortlessly stylish, her sunglasses perched on top of her head, chatting with Michael and Sarah as they bounced excitedly. For a moment, I felt a surge of pride. This was my family. This was why I had worked all those years, saved, sacrificed. To give them moments like this, but the feeling didn't last. As I wheeled my suitcase closer, Eric barely looked up. "Dad," he said quickly, almost businesslike. "There's been a change. We need to talk." The words hit like a cold splash of water. My smile faltered. A change? What kind of change? Julia shifted uncomfortably, avoiding my gaze. While Michael tugged at her hand and Sarah clutched a small stuffed dolphin she insisted on bringing. Eric finally met my eyes, and what I saw there made my stomach twist. It wasn't excitement. It was something harder, colder. "Dad, we don't have a ticket for you." I thought I booked it, but I must have messed up. "The flights are full now. There's no way to fix it," said it flatly, as though discussing a missed dentist appointment. My heart stuttered. "You mean no ticket? I gave you the money?" $20,000, Eric. I trusted you with everything. How could there not be a ticket for me? A voice cracked louder than I intended, drawing a few stares from nearby travelers. Julia glanced around nervously, as if she wanted the floor to swallow her whole. Eric sighed, the way he used to when he thought I was being difficult. "Dad, calm down. Look, you can just head home, and we'll work this out later. The kids are excited. The vacation's paid for. It would be a shame to waste it." I blinked at him, trying to process what he was really saying. Head home?
After
Paying for everything? After weeks of planning? My blood ran cold. Julia finally spoke up, her voice hushed but firm. "Lee, please, don't make this harder than it needs to be. The kids have been looking forward to this. We'll bring you souvenirs." Souvenirs. As if a trinket from a gift shop could replace my place on this trip, Michael and Sarah tugged at their suitcases, blissfully unaware of the storm between us. "Grandpa, are you coming? Did you bring your swim trunks?" Michael asked brightly. I swallowed hard, forcing a smile for him. "Not this time, buddy. Maybe next time." The words tasted like ash in my mouth. Sarah pouted. "You promised. You'd build sandcastles with me." I felt something break inside me as I bent down to hug them. I know, sweetheart. I'm sorry. Eric glanced at his watch. We're going to be late, Dad. Just go home. We'll talk when we get back. Don't. Home? Just like that. My own son dismissed me like an inconvenience. I stood frozen as they walked. Toward the security line, the children waving, Julia avoiding my eyes, Eric already buried in his phone again. I wanted to call out, to demand answers, to shout that I had paid for all of it. But in my throat. Instead, I watched them disappear into the crowd, their laughter and chatter fading, until I was left standing alone in the terminal with my suitcase and a hollow ache in my chest. The drive home was a blur. The radio played, but I didn't hear it. My hands gripped the steering wheel until my knuckles turned white. How could he do this to me? I had given him everything. Not just the money for this trip, but years of support helped with his first. Mortgage, loans for his business that he never repaid, and babysitting whenever they needed a break. And this was my reward. Betrayal, humiliation, abandonment. By the time I pulled into my driveway, rage simmered beneath my grief. I sat in the car for a long time, staring at the house Martha and I had built together, feeling her absence like a wound. Inside, the silence pressed down on me. I poured myself a drink, something I rarely did, and sank into Martha's old chair. Her photo on the mantel seemed to watch me, her smile gentle, her eyes kind. "What would you do, Martha?" I whispered. No answer came, of course. Only the steady tick of the grandfather clock. I thought about calling Eric, demanding he fix this, demanding he show some shred of decency. But another thought took hold, darker, sharper. Maybe it was time he learned what consequences really meant. The days passed slowly. I tried to distract myself with chores, books, even gardening, but nothing eased the sting. Then one afternoon, I opened my filing cabinet and pulled out folders I hadn't touched in years. Bank statements, retirement accounts, real estate deeds, evidence of a lifetime of careful work, savings, and sacrifices. Eric had always assumed everything would one day pass to him, that he would inherit the fruits of my labor without question. The thought made my hands tremble, not with fear, but with resolve. If he thought I was disposable, maybe it was time to prove him wrong. I searched for an old business card I had tucked away years ago. A lawyer named Bruce Harland, who specialized in estate planning. He had helped a friend of mine once, and I remembered the way he spoke, direct, confident, no nonsense. My fingers closed around the card at last, and I dialed the number before I could second-guess myself. The receptionist answered warmly, scheduling me for the next afternoon. For the first time in days, I slept through the night. Bruce's office was everything you'd expect of a man who dealt in legacies. Polished wood paneling, marble floors, a sweeping view of the bay. He greeted me with a firm handshake, his eyes sharp but kind. "Mr. Willis, what brings you here today?" I spread my documents across his mahogany desk like evidence in a trial. My son betrayed me. He's been financially dependent on me for decades, but this was the last straw. I need to protect what I've built. I need to make sure he can't touch a dime when I'm gone. Bruce leaned back, studying me carefully. "Tell me everything." And so I did. The trip, the missing ticket, the dismissal. His years of borrowing, of taking advantage. The threats were when I finally began to pull back. Bruce listened intently, jotting notes, asking precise questions. At last, he looked up. "Mr. Willis, this is a clear case of financial exploitation. In California, you have every right to disinherit him entirely. We can make it an ironclad document to verify your mental competency, notarize every page, and even record the signing. If he tries to contest it, he won't stand a chance." Relief washed over me. I want him out. Everything should go to causes that matter: education, veterans, and community programs. Let him see that greed has consequences. Bruce nodded. "We can have this ready within the week." Walking out of that office, the weight on my shoulders felt lighter than it had in years. For the first time since that awful day at the airport, I felt like I had taken back some control. not revenge, justice. Martha would have approved. That night, I sat in her chair again, sipping tea instead of whiskey this time, and whispered, "I'm doing this for you too." The quiet house felt less empty, as if she were there, silently agreeing. Days later, I returned to sign the documents. Witnesses, notary stamps, and even a video camera to record my clear state of mind. Page after page, I signed my name, each stroke of the pen carving a permanent boundary. When it was done, Bruce shook my hand firmly. "You've taken a brave step, Mr. Willis. You've ensured your legacy goes to those who will honor it." I walked out of that marble lobby with my head held higher, my heart steadier. Justice was no longer just an idea. It was real, written in ink, sealed with law. The following week, I tried not to think about Eric or the trip. I imagined them lounging on the beach, sipping cocktails, taking pictures they'd later post online. Once that thought would have crushed me, but now it only hardened my resolve. They were enjoying themselves on my dime while I sat at home. The man who had made it possible erased from the picture. But a strange sense of calm settled in me. Let them laugh in the Hawaiian sun. They had no idea the storm was waiting for them when they returned. On the day their flight was due back, I drove to the airport, not to pick them up with hugs and stories, but to stand at a distance and watch. I wanted to see their faces when they realized I was no longer the man they could push aside. I parked near the arrivals terminal, leaning against my car as streams of travelers spilled out with their luggage and tired expressions. Families reunited with embraces, couples kissed, and children ran into grandparents' arms. And then I saw them, Eric striding ahead, Julia behind with the kids, their sunburned skin proof of days spent under tropical skies. For a fleeting moment, I almost smiled at Michael, clutching a ukulele, and Sarah holding a garland of flowers around her neck. But then Eric's eyes landed on me, and his expression soured instantly. "Dad, what are you doing here?" he asked, his voice carrying irritation more than surprise. Julia froze, her hand tightening on Sarah's shoulder. The kids lit up, running toward me. "Grandpa, Grandpa, look what we got." They thrust their souvenirs into my hands, their faces glowing with joy. I knelt to admire them, hugging each child tightly, inhaling the scent of sunscreen and sea air clinging to their clothes. "They're beautiful," I whispered, kissing their foreheads. For them I would always soften. For Eric, no such mercy remained. "I came to welcome you back," I said coolly, straightening up to face him. Eric crossed his arms. "I didn't need to. We could have called you later." His words stung, but I didn't let it show. Julia's eyes flickered nervously between us, her lips parting as if she wanted to speak but thought better of it. I met Eric's gaze steadily. "I just wanted you to know something. While you were gone, I took care of some business. Important business." His brow furrowed. "What business?" I let the silence stretch, savoring the tension. "Find out soon enough," I said finally, my voice even but edged with steel. Eric bristled, his jaw tightening. "Dad, I don't have time for games. We just got off a plane." I stepped closer, lowering my voice so the children wouldn't hear. "This isn't a game, Eric. Not anymore. You made your choice when you told me to go home. Now you'll have to live with mine." His eyes narrowed, suspicion flashing, but before he could respond, Julia tugged at his sleeve. "Eric, let's just go, please." He shot me one last glare before leading his family toward the parking lot. I watched them go, my heart pounding with a mixture of sorrow and grim satisfaction. The days that followed brought a strange peace. No more waiting for calls that never came, no more swallowing disappointment. I busied myself with volunteer work. At the community center, tutoring kids who needed guidance. Their eager eyes and grateful smiles filling a void Eric never could. I made donations to veterans programs, remembering my own years of service and the brothers I had lost. Every check I wrote felt like a seed planted in better soil than the barren ground of my son's entitlement. And each night, I sat in Martha's chair, imagining her nodding with approval, her spirit finally at rest. It wasn't long before Eric discovered what I had done. The call came one evening, his number flashing angrily across my phone. Against my better judgment, I answered, "Dad, what the hell is this?" His voice thundered through the receiver. "You changed your will? You cut me out completely?" "After everything I've done for you." I laughed bitterly. "Everything you've done for me?" "Eric, I've bailed you out more times than I can count. I paid your debts, supported your family, and gave you a life you couldn't build on your own. And how did you repay me? By leaving me stranded in an airport after I paid for your dream vacation? You made your choice." His voice rose to a shout. "You can't do this to me. I'm your son. It's not fair." My grip on the phone tightened, but my voice stayed steady. Fair would have been one ticket for me on that plane. Fair would have been gratitude instead of arrogance. You thought I was weak, Eric, disposable. But I'm not. The law's on my side now. There was a long pause, heavy breathing on the other end. Finally, he spat, "You'll regret this." And then the line went dead. I sat in the silence afterward, heart racing, but not with fear. With resolve, the weeks turned into months. Word spread through the family. Some relatives called to scold me to say I was being too harsh, that blood should matter more than pride. Others quietly admitted they understood that Eric had always been reckless, always taking without giving. The grandchildren still visited sometimes, sneaking away with Julia, who confessed in hushed tones that she had begged Eric to include me, that she hadn't agreed with what happened. Her eyes brimmed with guilt, but I told her gently, "This isn't on you, it's on him." Michael and Sarah would run through my yard, laughing, filling the house with a joy I thought I had lost. For them, I kept my heart open, knowing they were innocent in this storm. One evening, Julia came alone. She sat at my kitchen table, her hands twisting nervously. "Lee, I don't know how much longer I can keep doing this. Eric is furious all the time. He blames me for not siding with him. Talks about the money nonstop. Don't know who he is anymore." I poured her tea, watching the steam rise between us. "He made his choices. Julia, you can't change him. You can only protect yourself and the kids." Her eyes welled with tears. "I don't want them to grow up thinking greed is what family means." I reached across the table, covering her hand with mine. "Then teach them better. Show them love, not entitlement. That's how you break the cycle." She nodded slowly, as if clinging to those words like a lifeline. Time has a way of revealing truths. The more distance I put between Eric and myself, the clearer it became that this was not just about a missed ticket or a ruined vacation. It was about years of small betrayals, of eroded trust, of a son who valued wealth over love. The Hawaii trip was simply the breaking point, the moment I finally saw him for who he was. And once you see the truth, you can't unsee it. You can only act on it. Looking back now, I don't regret a thing. It's not the money I spent, not the will I changed, not the confrontation at the airport. Each decision carved a path away from bitterness and toward dignity. I may have lost a son in the process, but I gained something greater: peace of mind, clarity, the assurance that my legacy will serve those who truly need it. When I walk through the community center hearing children laugh as they learn, when a veteran shakes my hand in gratitude, I feel Martha beside me, smiling. That's worth more than any vacation could ever be. As for Eric, I hear things here and there. His business struggles, his debts mount, his anger festers, but I no longer carry that burden. It is his to bear, just as my choices are mine. Sometimes, late at night, I wonder if he ever reflects on that day at the airport, if he ever realizes how much one cruel decision cost him. Maybe he does, maybe he doesn't. Either way, the lesson stands. When you cast someone aside, when you treat love as expendable, you may just find that the foundation you thought would always hold you up crumbles beneath your feet. I still keep that photo of Martha on the mantle, her gentle smile watching over me. I talk to her often, not out of madness, but out of love. We did the right thing, I tell her. We honored what we built. We didn't let greed destroy it. And in those quiet moments, I feel her presence, warm and steady, reminding me that justice is not always loud or vengeful. Sometimes it is simply choosing to walk away, to protect what matters, to ensure that the story ends on your terms. And so it does. I am not the man who was left standing in the terminal that day, abandoned by the very people I sacrificed for. I am the man who stood up, who chose dignity over despair, who rewrote his story with ink and courage. If Eric ever learns from that, perhaps there will be reconciliation someday. If not, I can live with that, because in the end, I found something more important than his approval. I found myself again.